Hey friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would do a pattern paper haul, but more than a haul, kind of go through the paper pads and show you why I chose each one of these and how I would mix and match different patterns on cards. I did a video like this I think a year or two ago, and you guys seemed to really enjoy it and found it really helpful, so I thought it might be time to do an updated version now that I've picked up some new papers for spring. So if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you know that I'm a huge fan of pattern paper. I love to use it on my cards, and I love to mix and match patterns. Sometimes I will use it on cards just in a single sheet, like I have some card examples here for you guys to show you. These two cards here are using only one piece of pattern paper to kind of serve as a little bit of a backdrop, kind of a canvas to frame up the picture in the middle, the image. This is another one where I've just used the one piece of pattern paper and then actually used a frame to really drive that home to encapsulate the scene. And I think it just adds so much. You know, if this had just been a plain card with just the clouds, that would have been one thing, but I think it just adds so much more interest to have that little bit of pattern paper and to pull the scene in a little bit tighter and combine those together. So there are some examples for that. I also have a few examples of times where I only use one sheet of pattern paper, but this time I used it in a smaller amount, but really the point was to pull in the color palette. So for this card here, I have this one piece of pattern paper in the back, and it is a pink and orange and white plaid, a very small plaid, and then I have that popping with this really bright, vibrant pink frame, and together those two pull together the color palette of the card. It really gives like that extra bit of oomph on the card. And for this one also, I have this rainbow plaid that you only see a little bit around the edges of, but it absolutely pulls all of the color palette from the center of the card, you know, into the outside edges. So it really just adds so much more. Again, if this had been pulled out and filled the whole card, it just wouldn't pop quite as much. So I really love pattern paper for that reason. But what I really love to do is mix and match prints, like I said. So here are a couple of card examples where I have done that. So I have, on this card, I have the one pattern paper as the background, kind of serving as the wallpaper in this little scene. And then I broke it up with a cardstock frame. And then I have the other piece of pattern paper here in the background, again, kind of pulling in the focus of the scene to the center of the card by framing that up and adding that pattern paper as the backdrop. And these two are using the same die. This is my favorite die. It's from Hello Bluebird. It's the Gallery Frame number 2. And so I've got two different prints here. I've got a plaid, and then this one has little trees on it. And then for this one I have a floral and a little aqua and white polka dot. And again, it pulls in the color palette, gave me inspiration for where to go on the scene. And I think it just adds so much. Like I said, I'm just a huge fan of pattern paper. I think it can bring so much more interest to a card. So there's a couple of examples using two prints on a card, but what I really love is when I get to mix 3 prints on a card. And so here are a couple of examples. I think I may have showed these two in that last video, or at least this one. But here you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and this one is just a little bit, this is a very old card, but 1, 2, and 3. And again, it just adds so much to me. I think it just brings so much more interest. You've got color, you've got pattern, and again, you get to shrink down your focal panel and just encapsulate that scene a little bit more. You don't have to use as many images, so if you're somebody that's new to coloring or you find coloring overwhelming, using pattern paper can be a huge tool for you because you can make a much smaller scene on a card. You have less work to do with that part, and then the pattern paper is going to do so much of the heavy lifting in your card design. So those are some examples of what I am talking about. But now I wanted to just go through these paper pads that I've picked up for spring. So I have the Echo Park, it's springtime. And then I have two from Cartabella. I have the Here, There, and Everywhere and the Flora number 6. So I'm just going to set these off to the side and we'll go through them all one by one and just kind of show you like why I picked these out and kind of what prints I would mix and match together. I did just get these. I've opened them up, but I have not thought this out. So I'm going to show you in real time what my thought process is behind mixing and matching different patterns and how I decide if I'm going to use 1 or 2 or 3 prints on a card. Alright, so I've zoomed in here a little bit and we'll go through this one first, the Echo Park, it's springtime. So on the first page we have this really pretty seed packet print. So this is a kind of busy print to me. There's a lot going on. So if I were to use this on a card, I would probably cut it down into strips. You could do 3 different strips like this, so you could use that on 3 different cards, or you could even do smaller strips going this way, and I would use that on another print. So this is a print that I would definitely layer on top of another print, so you still get that impact, but it's not quite so overwhelming, because this plus a focal panel with different images on it, I feel like would be too much going on for a single card front. So on the back we've got this blue and white gingham. That is a wonderful print for layering. So you could even use the same piece. I love double-sided paper because you have a lot of built-in prints that work together. So this would be a great one to use as the background piece and then add a strip of that depending which way you wanted it to go, across or down. That would be a perfect match. Here we've got a couple little cut off things. I probably would not use this. Maybe the strip up at the top, I could trim that down a little bit smaller. That would be possible. If you're somebody who likes to make cards that you don't have to color on, these would make a wonderful focal panel just as they are. But I usually don't make that type of card, so that wouldn't be something I would do. I would more likely use the back side of this print as a base and layer something on top of it. Here we've got a couple more of those cut aparts that you could use as a focal panel. This one you could even stamp an image inside if you wanted to, or maybe just a sentiment. I probably wouldn't color on this paper unless you use colored pencils or something, because it's not going to be made for alcohol ink. You're going to have some bleeding issues if you do that. Here is an absolutely gorgeous floral, and definitely one of the prints that pulled me to this paper pad. Again, this would be something I would most likely layer with something else, either in a style like this one. That would be really pretty to use as either one of the inner prints or one of the outer prints, or I would also use it on a card like, sorry, I just kind of put these all in a pile off to the side, in a card like this one, so I could use it as this main background print and layer some things on top that would break it up, or I could even use it as like one of the main prints here. So that one is gorgeous. That one would also go really well with the blue gingham. I think that would look really lovely. So we'll keep an eye out for a third print that maybe would go with that. More little cut aparts that you could use if you were interested, but I would probably use the B side, which has a tiny little floral print. I think that's really stunning, and that is a great one to use as a third print, or on a something where you have only a little bit showing, like a card like this. Because the print is so small, you would still get enough of it on the outside edges that it could really make your card pop. But I think that could also work for a layering element, although I don't think I would use it with the floral. I think all of that is just competing a bit too much. I would probably use that with something else. There's more little cut aparts. Same thing would go with these tiny butterflies. I would probably use this as a third or second print, but I would combine it with something else, I would think. Here's another gorgeous floral, and again, see, these are all kind of the same size scale. These are all kind of tiny prints, so that's usually an indication that that would be either something I would use all by itself or as a third layering piece. That one is really gorgeous as well with all of those spring flowers on it. And here we've got another solid. It's just got a little pinstripe with kind of a muted olive tone. That one would be really pretty with the floral. I could see that. Maybe this as the main part and then a little strip of this down at the bottom. I think that could be really nice. I think it would also look nice with this small floral possibly. I don't know if there's enough impact there for me though, so I probably wouldn't do that one. I would prefer this one. This one is a little bit more bold and a little bit more full. There's a lot less white space on this piece than on that one. Here we've got some really cute little watering buckets and some florals, some little pots, and super cute little gnomes. Again, this one is fairly busy, so I would probably use it in small doses and layer it on top of something else. That one could also look really nice with the blue gingham. Maybe even this print here, although the scale of this is similar to this, so I probably would not mix those two. You could mix these two, but again, this one is kind of muted. I don't know if it brings enough impact to this piece here. So I would probably search for something else, like possibly this pink tone-on-tone floral. That could be pretty. This one could also work with possibly this one here with another print. That could be nice. Maybe I would even combine these three together, because together the pink is going to lift that color palette up a little bit and pull out more of these tones. Here we've got some little branches and tiny birds. So the nice thing about this pad is if you're somebody that only uses one layer of pattern paper, there's a lot of these smaller prints in there that are going to work great around a frame. You know, this would be a really nice one to use here in the background too, because you would get just enough of that color palette to pull everything in. Sometimes if you're using like a bigger print, this one's not too bad, but if it's a little bit bigger than that, like you're not going to see that much of it if you only have a little sliver, especially if it's like this one here and you only have that tiny little bit. I probably wouldn't use it for that though, because you'd probably lose the birds, and so you know, that's kind of what the thing that catches my eye the most about this print is the little birds. So I would want to be able to see those, so I would want to use a smaller focal panel so that I could, you know, get the full impact of those. I think that could be really pretty with the pink as well, or this pink and white gingham. So this paper pad I'm already really loving because it's got a good mix of like main prints and what I call kind of the B prints. Usually they're on the B side, not always, but a lot of times the more muted prints are on the B side. Here we've got some little bees in the hive. Again, this one's fairly busy, so I would probably use a small strip of it, maybe on top of the pink gingham. That could be really pretty. And then we've got some smaller bees. So again, you could use a small strip of the bees on top of, I probably wouldn't put it right on top of this because I feel like that would be too busy, but you could, you know, add a layer of the pink in a larger amount and then just a very small amount of the yellow with the bees in a narrower strip, something like this one here, you know, where you have the base print. I probably would use, on this one, I'd probably put the pink on the base so you get more of the hive kind of showing on the edges, and then you could do the yellow print with the bees kind of running down in the middle. I think that could be nice. Here we've got another floral print that is very similar to this one here, but just a little bit larger and a little more spread out. So that is one where I would probably do a card like this, where I have a little bit more showing around the edges so that I could get the full impact of that gorgeous color palette, and definitely pull in, even an image like this could be really pretty because you could pull the different colors. This one almost matches, not quite, but almost. If I changed kind of this cool tone pink to more of this peachy pink, that could really look nice together. But if you used an image like this that has the floral, it can really tie in nicely together. Here we've got two beautiful prints that both would work really well together, but I would want a print that had a bit more interest combined as well. So this would be a great one to use in 3. So I would probably use it with this floral. I think that would be stunning. So we've got the base print that has the main focus, that has all the images, and then we've got this soft, more muted color palette that pulls all of those tones in, and then we've got more of a tone on tone with a smaller design on it. So that would work really well together. In fact, I think I have to use these on a card together soon. We've got a beautiful lilac with a white polka dot. I think that would look very pretty with this pattern here. But again, I would just want to use a small piece of it because it just has a lot going on. And then here is some more muted. This is that olive tone again, but it's just got a very small little design in there. And then the pad repeats itself. So there is that one. Next we'll go on to the Here, There, and Everywhere with Cartabella. I'm going to try to move a little bit more quickly this time because I think this video is getting a little bit long and I don't know how interesting this is for you guys. But here is our first print. Again, another gorgeous floral that would really make a fun impact on a card and give you a gorgeous color palette to work with. So there is a nice print built in on the back. It's kind of like a peachy pink with a white polka dot. That would look beautiful together. More of those little cut aparts. There's kind of a smaller floral. Maybe you could use those together. I'd have to see. It would have to be a small amount of this layered on top of the pink to separate it from the floral, but those could work together. There's more little cut aparts. There's a really pretty pale blue print that has almost like it almost looks like a quilt, little quilt triangles on there. So that would be pretty with, I probably wouldn't use it with that. Let's see what we could use it with. That would be nice with this small floral. Those two would be really pretty on a card like this one here, to use one as the outer and one as the inner piece. And when I do these kind of cards, it gives you, the die cuts these apart, so you always get 2 cards out of the one. So on the one you could use, you know, the floral on the outside, and on the other one you could use the floral on the inside. So you can switch it up and get double duty out of those. There's more cut aparts, the little banners. That I would probably use in small amounts as well. There's a pretty floral. That could be nice with this blue print over here as well because it's a bit more muted. That one would look nice. There is a red stripe. That would be really pretty with that first floral there. Maybe even those 3, or maybe the blue mixed in. I'm not quite sure about that combination, but we'll see. There might be something else. There's some little cameras. There's bees. Yellow gingham. This would be really pretty with this one here. So there's definitely 2 that would work well together. There is a pretty green, on green polka dot. I probably wouldn't use it with that. I mean, you could, but I would probably use it with something else. Maybe that one would be a good one to combine with that and one of the florals or the red stripe. Any of those might work nice together. There's another large floral, or I mean, it's not super large, but it's kind of medium, I would say, and a little bit more spaced apart. So that could be a nice one for something like this with just the one layer, where you want to pull in a color palette and maybe even separate it out from your focal panel with like a cardstock frame or something like that. And then there you've got kind of almost like a little starburst print. That could be pretty with this one here. I think that one would look nice with a few of those. There's some cars, so that would make a great masculine card. Could even work those two in together. There is a navy blue with tiny little rows of X's. That one looks very nice with this daisy print, but it would also go really well with that first floral with something to break it up, like that red print that we saw earlier. Although I'm not sure because this is stripes and this is stripes, so maybe not those two, but it could work well with a bunch of those different florals. And then there is a yellow, so you could even use the yellow with the daisies. And then this pad is going to repeat. So there was that one. So let's just quickly go through the last one. This is the Flora number 6 from Cartabella. You've got some little strips up there with some sentiments on them if you wanted to do that. This strip would be pretty to use on a card. And then you've got some little cut aparts. Look at how gorgeous that would be. This beautiful watercolor floral with this print right here. That would be stunning. Then we've got a larger daisy print. I would not combine that with one of the florals. They're just too big. You could maybe use it with this one, but maybe there's something else in here that you could use that with. Another stunning watercolor floral. This one, maybe you can combine it because it's such a small scale, but I would probably want something more neutral in the mix. And then there is another beautiful print there, little daisies on a pink background. I would not combine these two because the flowers are too similar in size. But that one could look pretty with this one, or maybe that one. Or even just to use as a single layer on a card. There's more little cut aparts. There is a pink tone-on-tone floral that could look really pretty with maybe this one here. I'm not sure. There's like a mustardy yellow. Ooh, look at those together. That could really make a card pop. That I would think would look really pretty. This, and this. Because this one has a little bit of a print to it, and then this one has the darker polka dots. I think that could look really gorgeous on a card. That one also would work well. It's a little bit busy for my taste, but maybe you could break it up with a little strip of this darker color between. There's another daisy print. Then we've got like a olive green. There's a lot of olive green for this spring in these different pads. More little cut aparts. Another daisy print, but this one on a smaller scale. And then we've got a really nice floral. That would be a nice one to use on these edges because you would still get to see that color palette showing through even though it's just a small amount. There's a really pretty built-in combination again. I really like the aqua mixed in there. There's a darker blue. Even though this darker blue kind of goes with this, I don't think I would mix these. I think the sizes of the flowers are too similar to get together. So I would have to maybe see what else I could mix that with. Maybe one of the pinks. Or maybe the olive green. That would pull out these little olive greens in there. And then we've got another daisy print, and then this pad is going to repeat. Another thing I like to use these particular pads for, this Flora collection, there's this number 6, so there's been 5 previous. I like to cut down these for bookmarks because they're just so gorgeous and they're double-sided. So I will cut these into like 2-inch strips, so you get 3 from each page because it's a 6x6 pad. And I will get 3 bookmarks out of there. So if I have leftover pieces, instead of just saving them in the pad, a lot of times I'll put them in a little mug that I keep on my bookshelf for bookmarks. And sometimes I'll even leave them in the library books for the next person to get, because I just think they look so pretty. So anyway, that was the video today. I hope you guys found it interesting and that there was some value in there for you. If you did, please leave me a comment down below and let me know. I thought it might be fun to kind of do this seasonally, like when the fall paper pads come out and we have some different color palettes and different prints that are maybe in for the season. I could do an updated version for that, or maybe possibly a Christmas paper pad edition if that's something that would be interesting to you guys. So let me know if this was helpful, if it was helpful to see the card samples. Some of these, like I said, were a little bit older, but I do sell my cards and I send a lot of cards out, so I just didn't have that many samples in hand to be able to share them with you. But I do have an entire pattern paper play playlist on my channel, so if you're interested in more tips on how to mix different prints, I put those all on that playlist, so you can check that out at any time. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon in another video. Bye-bye.